Subject is something that just popped into my head last week when we were talking about, what we were going to discuss on today's call. And for some reason, I harkened back to the time back in the teenage years when they used to play that game called Truth or Dare. And I thought we'd put a twist on it and call it Truth or Challenge and make it for more the grown-up type of focus. But the idea is to share a truth of something that you're currently going through, or a revelation that you've encountered in the last little while, whether it's because of the lockdowns or COVID or anything that's come out of that, or just anything that's come up in your life now. Or instead of sharing a truth, you could also share a challenge, a current challenge or a question or something that is kind of in your space that hasn't been resolved, or just kind of you're looking for some support, or even just to share it, or even to allow the group to chat about it. So it's Truth or Challenge Day today. And I'm wondering if any of you have any thoughts or anything that you've brought with you to today's call.
Okay,
Mr. Randy.
well, I was kind of intrigued before we started the call up that we have two ladies on the call that have unique names. And I want to just mention that before we get going, like Anya and Christian. And I think that that's pretty neat. Like, everybody likes to have their name in this day and age, and authentic ones that we are. It's nice that we have some authentic kind of interesting names for the two ladies that are on. But I guess where I come from with from heaven, with the idea of truth is just that simply, I'm going to just keep pounding it out there and saying that, my business being banking, that the truth is that there's abundance, there's nothing but. And it's the same with everything else. Like here I am right here by the Bow River that starts just here at west of Calgary in the mountains, and then runs all the way through Western Canada into the Hudson Bay. And majority of that water gets dumped in the Hudson Bay. Like, in fact, it builds up as it gets closer to the Hudson Bay. So is there a lack of water? No. Is there a lack of funding or money? No. Is there a lack of oil or gas? No. Is there a lack of food? No. We've been pumped with this idea of lack. And the truth of the matter is that there's abundance of everything. So that's my truth for today to start it off. And if it brings discussion, that's great. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Thank you, Randy.
You're welcome.
I guess I'll go next. Can you guys hear me? I'm just on the iPad, so I hope that we do okay. So I guess I'll start with a little story. It's not a super amazing story or anything, but to me it is. There was a situation when I was being formed in my mother's womb that my parents were having a discussion as to what my name should be, and my mother really, really wanted to name me Christian. Whether I was a boy or a girl, she just wanted that name. And she wasn't particularly religious or anything like that, but just for some reason, that's the name she wanted for me. But my dad, on the other hand, didn't agree, and he wanted to name me Kristen. And so, of course, when I came out into the world, my dad got his way, and my name was Kristen. But then when the birth certificate came to the house, there was a little thing where you could fill out if you found any mistakes, you could send it back and they would correct it. So my mother sent it back and corrected it to Christian. So yeah, so growing up, it wasn't always easy having a boy's name, back in the 60s when I was growing up, they always would separate the boys and girls you go to your first day of school, and I would always be on the boys' side, and it was just so humiliating for me. And so growing up most of my life, I hid the fact that my name was Christian as a girl, Christian, because I've never actually met another girl named Christian. And then as I grew older and became a little more awake, it became very symbolic that there was some energy behind that, need for my mom to call me that. And so I'm embracing it now. And I guess I should stop changing it on the Zoom calls, but yeah, it's I liken it to Christ light or Christ energy, and it's kind of probably been my destiny, for and that I'm just now waking up to. So it's a cool story. I'm owning it now, and my mother really wanted me to be Christian, so I should honor that.
Have you ever looked up the meaning of the name? I know that there's different meanings to different names. Have you ever done that kind of research?
No, I haven't, other than follower of Christ, that the Christ light, there was a period in my life where I was a born again Christian when I was a teenager in my early 20s. And I got kind of disillusioned with religion back then. So I really didn't want to own that name for quite a few years. I just, but it's come full circle, and I understand things a little bit better. But as far as your questions, are we doing truth or challenge right now?
It's completely up to you. You can bring either or. It doesn't have to be both.
Well, I guess that would be one of my truths, just coming into the symbology of my name and the truth in that in a more universal way. I wrote a couple of things down. I guess I couldn't think of any one thing. So the first thing that came to my mind was just the truth that we are eternal beings and that we're bringing in the new earth. That's a truth that's getting me through these times right now. So, yeah.
Awesome.
It's kind of cool when you said your mom was the one that wanted you to be named Christian. It brought to mind the story of the boy named Sue.
Right. There's a song called Is Sister Christian? My sister always sings that to me.
Yeah, that's an awesome song, no doubt.
Yeah, my mother never quite made it clear why she needed me to be called Christian, because she was not religious. So I've actually gotten that answer from her.
Something to be said for, that matriarchal intuition, there must be something there, like I keep feeling that I don't know why, and I don't know why I feel this, but I feel like there's more for you to discover around your name.
Yeah.
And it could be really cool. I found a couple of things interesting with your story, actually, because one of the things that's come up recently, and actually even in Randy's world too, because Randy recently got his birth certificate on bond paper, and I remember he did a video on it, and he was very proud of it. He was very kind of showing it, and I got it now, and it's on the same paper they make money on, and all that kind of stuff. It's fun. But the other thing too is I know that there's a stigma around birth certificates now.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to bring up too about the bond that
being that we're first of all, your name is all capitalized on birth certificates, which means that you are now you've basically given yourself over to the powers that be, the government or whatever you want to call it, and there's a whole story behind that, and that's a rabbit hole we could go down. I don't feel like we necessarily want to, but that's up to you guys.
No, I'm super glad you brought that up, because I hadn't made that. I've been aware of that situation for a while now, but I never made the correlation of my mother actually changing the name, on that.
Yeah. And the fact that, your birth name actually is Kristen then, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, originally it was for about a month I was Kristen, and then it got changed.
Right. So that's interesting in and of itself too, because I've been recently, and I know Randy mentioned this too in one of his videos. I was recently introduced to a website from Anna von Reitz. It's a situation, a place where people can become what they call American nationals, where they're basically saying, I am no longer a U.S. citizen, but I am an American. I am a sovereign American. And Anna has gone through a whole bunch of research and studying of the law and the history of the United States, and I'm just kind of getting into it. And so I found that, like really fascinating to get into. But the whole thing was basically declaring, that you're no longer, now that because technically that's your way out, because you didn't, like your parents didn't know when they signed you over via birth certificate or any of that kind of stuff. And so you had the choice at 18 years of age to revoke that, but you didn't know any better at that point. So no one ever told you that you were signing up to something. So that is that's something that's been done under fraud, the way I've understood it through the research I've done. So technically, and it's interesting too, because as a Canadian, I'm interested to find out how someone who was born not in the United States can also do the same kinds of things. So it's a fascinating subject. You've obviously heard of it.
Well, it's funny that you bring Anna up, because someone recently introduced me to her, and I think I emailed Randy to ask him if he knew anything about this, and he wrote me back and said, "Oh yeah, she's a legitimate in person." So yeah, so I haven't actually delved into it yet, or but I just feel like things are changing so fast that the sovereignty issue is going to change too, and how it's going to unfold. I'm just kind of observing as it goes along. But yeah, I'm thank you for making that connection about my birth certificate and my name. I didn't quite realize it until just now. So it's interesting.
Just something to think about for sure.
Yeah.
Randy, I'm going to ask you a question around the same subject matter, because I know you mentioned Anna in one of your videos, but you mentioned Anna as an alternative of somebody that if you weren't happy with the situation you're in, as you were talking to the viewers, that they could go and follow what Anna was doing and possibly go down that lane. And there were other people that you could follow or research or check into. What about yourself? Where do you stand? Are you just sort of feeling, like I'm a sovereign, I live by my own rules, and is that how you operate, or how do you see all of those things, and how do you live from that?
Well, when I first got involved in this stuff, it was well before I got into banking, and it was discovering that fraud, which is FRAUD. Interesting, eh? How the gold is hidden in the middle of that word.
Yep.
And you're the gold, in that monetary system, being the one that autographs AU. And it was frustrating at first, no doubt, because I thought about it as if, my mother and father chose that name. I like that name. I want it. I don't want to change my name because of some fraudulent system. I want to keep it. So how can we do this? And then the adding to thing started to come into my mind, and I discovered the families, the banking families that actually started this situation with the autograph and the bond and the, call it fraud at the government level, I think is where we have to put that. Like at the upper levels, they still think of a sovereign human being or as an authority and take their autograph on paper to create credit. But at the government level is where the fraud happens, and they just, say that you're dead and thank you very much. We'll create money based on your dead entity, And it was a challenging start for me, and some frustration and anger along the way, but now I function as adding to, okay, because I ran into these families that function in that monarchy sense and that hierarchy. I have documentation and manifest, which is a word for paper in my mind, that says I'm Lord Randall Earl Kaiser, and under that title, I also hold the managing director position of a common law pure trust. So that's all paperwork, right? And whether someone wants to go through with that or not, our group, the First Republic Registrar Foundation, has the lawful procedure and the paperwork to do that. Anna von Reitz and I are quite good friends. Like, I spoke to her again last week on the phone. We have an email thread with a number of people in that kind of the banking world, if you want to call it that. Kim Gagosian, myself, Anna von Reitz, Ernest Rothschild, who spells his name with the R-A-U instead of R-O-T-H. And then Bauer himself, B-A-U-R-E-R. Sorry, you know, they all have the idea in their minds that this A-U is important, right? So Bauer, being my mentor and teacher for a long time in this banking industry, who's kind of decided to just walk away from me for now, but he's on the thread too. And I know he reads the emails. He hasn't changed his address, but he hasn't replied in quite a while. I'm starting to kind of go off into Neverland here, I know.
Oh, it's interesting.
Okay, thanks. But you know, it's so then when you think in terms of you being the goal and you being the authority, the autograph and stuff like that, then it becomes a mental thing. And in fact, taking all three jurisdictions in, the physical, which is what you are biologically, the mental, which is what we're talking about in terms of authority and authorization and that kind of language. And then the metaphysical or the spiritual as well, where you feel and think of yourself as very powerful, you know, as a sovereign human being, as a creator, as a, you know, a co-creator with God. And once you put all that stuff together, you can blast away on the internet, on YouTube, about all kinds of stuff. And whether somebody listens to you or not doesn't matter anymore, because I really like what I say to myself, you know, and I really feel good about my position on this heavenly Mother Earth now. And if anybody listens, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine. It's like, it's just comforting to feel that powerful in your own realm, in your own universe, in your own heavenly position on this heavenly Mother Earth, which is where I live. I don't like to think of myself as a worldly human, because world is a human construct. And, you know, like for instance, when Jesus Christ talked of not being of this world, well, I'm not of this world either. I just about used the F word, but I'm going to hold back because it's Sunday. But you know, like the world is definitely run by Satan, and Satan, in my mind, again, is just simply crazy thoughts. Humans thinking crazy thoughts. You know, that's the Aramaic version of the word Satan. That's the meaning of it in Aramaic. And I just, you know, I can go on from there, but I should let somebody else take a turn, because I hope I answered your question for you, William.
You did. You brought up some other interesting things too, because I thought everyone seems to have the AU in their names, right? And then all of a sudden I had this little light bulb go on, and I thought, my name, my first name in French is Guillaume, and it's spelled Guillaume. And I thought, well, if I do anything on paper, you know, like Randy was suggesting, I will use my French name, Guillaume. And I thought that way I would have the gold in my name too. So I would be, you know, right in tune with everyone else. So that's awesome.
Well, speaking of French, I just want to say one little thing. If my mother had only given me the French version of my name, she would have saved me a lot of angst as a child. Christian. But she didn't. She gave me the boy version.
Gotcha. I wanted to share a challenge that I have been looking at this past week. I like to follow some various spiritual channels on YouTube as well. And a lot of them, well, a lot, I've seen on at least 2 different channels, maybe 3, that they were saying today, like this weekend especially, but today, the 21st of this month, being the first full day of spring, is a very, very powerful day. that this is an opportunity for you to really transform a lot of your old habits and ways of being in the 3D realm into more of a 5D realm. And by releasing it, becoming aware of it, allowing it, and sort of giving it up, that it may provide an opportunity for you to change into more of the authentic person that you are, rather than the person that isn't quite so authentic. So I don't know if it's a challenge, I guess, but I did find it somewhat challenging, because I noticed that like one of the things, I saw a video yesterday from Lori Ladd, who definitely talks about a lot of spiritual stuff. And it was a 5-minute video, 5-6 minutes. It was really short. And she said she did some channeling from a couple of different folks. And what they were saying is this weekend to give yourself a lot of space, to ground yourself a lot, meditate, give yourself quiet time, get away from the computer, get away from the TV, be out in nature, soak up the sun, take baths, showers, anything to do with water, just to allow yourself to be more in that space. And I started doing that, but I definitely noticed myself wanting to get back to my old distractions. Like I got to check what's going on in my email, or I got to see what's on the computer, or there's a video that I wanted to watch and I have time to watch it, so I'm going to watch it. And then I go, well, wait a minute, you can watch that 2 days from now or later on, it's not a problem. So it's just interesting. I don't know if any of you have anything that comes from what I'm sharing here, but I'm finding that that's an interesting challenge for me in just my daily life, not even this weekend, but just giving myself some me time, some quiet time, some downtime, some like what I seem like I say this on almost every video, but I admire Randy for his commitment to being out in nature and for taking his walks on a daily basis. And I get inspiration from that, and it reminds me, and I go out when I can and when I choose to, but there are days when I could and I don't as well. And I noticed that, I have certain habits, certain old ways of thinking that are coming up saying, oh, you gotta finish this first, or you gotta do this first. It's always do these tasks first, and then you can enjoy your life. So I don't know if that speaks to anybody, but I wanted to put that out there. Does anyone have anything that came from that share of mine?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that challenge too. I mean, giving the time to yourself this weekend, that it's important. And it made me think, because for me, it's like I'm two different people. The one that was living in Miami and the one that is living here now. When it comes to daily habits, it's like two different things. For example, I haven't been watching TV for years. Even before I moved to the States, I wasn't watching TV. Now, simply the fact that I'm staying with my dad, he's coming from work, and we're sitting in front of the TV in the evening, drinking a beer or having a drink or whatever, but it's the time, what's up, how was your day, and just watching TV, which is for me a completely pointless, like there is nothing to watch there, but for the sake of spending the time with my father, I do that, right? But I caught myself that even when he's not here, I tend to turn it on. Just for what? But instead, there I was spending more time.
Hopefully we'll get her back. She just froze temporarily.
Oh my God. So, oh my God.
We were
What
just,
did I,
we got you up to the point of you were, watching TV without your dad, and then you were about to share a revelation, and then
yeah, but when I was in Miami, I spent much more time in front of the computer. So none of these things is healthy. And I'm like, wait a minute, where is my time? What am I doing with my time? Right? And catching on these daily habits and seeing me how different it was there and how different it is here, it's easier for me to catch where is exactly me and where is maybe not me. And you know, and it's like, what would I like to really do with the time? If I didn't like this over there and I don't like this over here, there is probably another possibility for me, right, to do something. So yeah, and as long for the let me just catch my dog. As long as as Randy's walk in nature, I took my dog from my mom's because she's my dog. She's my dog that when I was living to the States, the situation was like, we don't know what we're gonna do, if we're gonna stay, if we're gonna come back, maybe we'll bring her, right? But eventually she stayed with my mom. And now that I'm here, I brought her and just for the sake of going out. Even if there was snowing, -15, winter, blizzard, whatever, I just took her because in Miami, I had the beach right next to my house. I was riding the bike, I was walking, going to the beach. Here, and there was nothing to do because everything was closed anyways. So the only way out was with my dog. And she kind of saved my sanity, which she was doing from the very beginning, by the way. Because the story with my dog's name is Florida. And I got her 3 years speaking about names again. And I found her, okay? I found her. I got her from the street. And initially I was looking for a house, for a home, for a permanent home for her, because it's the third dog I found like 3 years in a row. And she was like for a month already. And my mom is like, she can't be without a name. Give her a name and you will give her away with a name. I'm like, I'm not giving her a name because that's gonna create attachment, right? And I didn't want that attachment. And my mom is like, okay, we had another dog named Alaska at that time. And my mom is like, oh, she's so different, her, all different personality. Oh, we have one state, why don't we name her Florida? And sure enough, 3 years later, I end up being in Florida. And my mom, to this day, she's like, if I knew it's gonna be such a prophecy, I would never name her Florida, because I never ever, in my dreams, in my plans, it was not my dream to move to the States. So going back, she's saving my life now, taking me out. She's taking me out. She's taking me out. I'm in the bed. It's my bedtime. And I'm still with the computer. She comes and she puts her head on my laptop, making me unable to do anything. And she's like, it's time to sleep, you know?
Yep.
So it's amazing how it's a truth that we need other, not only people, other spirits, other entities around us to serve as a mirror for ourselves. Because otherwise, I see myself how I was falling sometimes in those, I call them black holes. When you're just on your own, it's easy to get lost sometimes, right? And especially in the pandemic, everything's closed, you have no family, you have some obligations, but everything is virtual. But it's essential for us to maintain this connection and this communication, but face to face, not only through the computer, but the human touch, the words, this is essential for us, I think. And okay, I'm gonna stop here because I'm rambling right now.
That was awesome. What a wonderful story. Like just the Florida part alone was so cute, but the rest of it too, Anya. And I want to call you Anya. I don't want to call you Anna. I like Anya. But yeah, that was really cool. And you know, it's so true that words become. So there's an old saying that I learned a long time ago, and actually Ida added to it. She put feelings in front first. So feelings, and then thoughts become words. Words become action. Action becomes character. Character becomes our destiny. You know, and it's the word of God, or the word that's in you, you know, becomes your reality biologically. And yeah, you said it in 2 or 3 different ways in that little story. It was just, that was wonderful. Thank you. That was cool.
Thank you, Randy.
I was wondering, well, quick question for Chris. Chris, what would you actually prefer to be called by at this point? Do you prefer Chris, or do you actually prefer Christian?
Actually, at this point, I'm okay with either, you know, which is a huge step for me, because for the longest time, I hid the fact that my name is Christian, and I don't know why. Like now I'm just like, I'm embracing it. So I'm very, you know, I'm in my late 50s, so I'm very accustomed to being called Chris, so it's fine with me. But Christian feels like a name of honor now, so I'm fine with either. Yeah. And it's funny, at work, my name badge says Christian on it, so I can always tell someone who doesn't really know my name. They look at my name badge, and if they call me Christian, I know that they just looked at my name badge to find out what my name was. But yeah, either one. If you want to call me Christian, I would be honored.
Awesome. We just learned something new today, Randy.
The words are so cool, you know, like when I was younger, my initials are REK, so wreck things, like I used to wreck things, I guess. But I kind of graduated out of the feeling that Randy, which was not my given name. My given name was Randall, but I went by Randy for so many years, and honestly, like how many relationships I was with and stuff like that, that it was starting to get kind of old too. So I said, you know what, I'd rather be called Randall. And then the Kaiser part, I mean, obviously it's Caesar or King or whatever. That's kind of cool. So yeah, you know, we live up to our names. It's what we're doing. And I hear you, Christian, saying that, you know, you've attached it to the Christed light and the, you know, the Christ story, whether that be the allegory or a truth about Jesus the man or not. It's just a beautiful story of Christed light. And yeah, I'd be proud of that name too, Christian. That's a really nice name.
Yeah.
I like my full name too. I mean, William can be broken down into Will or Bill or anything else. It seems like I've been called Richard many times. I don't know why, but it just seems to be interesting. I think it's that maybe that English background that people are thinking, oh, it's one of those English names, the long ones, you know, but it's Richard. No, it's not. It's William. Okay, I get it. But I've always preferred William. I never liked Bill. I've often said, well, there's enough bills in my life. There's the hydro bill. There's the, you know, the telephone bill. There's all those bills. I don't need another bill. So I'm happy with William. So I totally understand. Yes.
Definitely fits you.
Okay.
Go ahead,
No,
Anya.
I just wanted to say one quick thing to Randy, because you said Kaiser and it hit me. Obviously, in German, it's Caesar, and my last name is Caesar. I mean, I have two last names. Caesar is my ex-husband's name, but it's Caesar, and I'm like, and we have the same last name, really.
What's that thing that I've heard there's something called, and I get the name, I don't have it completely right, I don't think here, but 7 degrees of something where you can go back like 7 steps in any direction with people who know people, and you'll find some commonality between, like, let's say I'm looking at Randy and I say, okay, Randy, let's see how far we can go back before we find someone that we both know in common, you know, and I believe that the 7 degrees is basically you're looking at all of the people inside of Randy's circle, people that he knows, people that I know. And then according to what this says, I believe is you don't have to go more than 7 steps before you find
Yes.
you know, a commonality. So does anyone have anything more on that to add? Because I find that kind of interesting too.
It's easy to see if you're on LinkedIn, for example, that there are these degrees. If you're looking for a job, for example, you look where they work, and it shows you in what degree you're connected with that person. So it's already in use. It's not on Facebook though. It would be interesting if they added this to Facebook, but it's functioning on LinkedIn to the 3rd degree.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yes.
Are there any other truths or challenges that anyone would like to share with the group?
Well, I'll say a little bit more on that connection side. You know, like I'll oftentimes use the word all when I speak, you know, everything and everyone every day, or the all. And I mean, I include nature when I talk, but humanity, you know, one of our biggest challenges, there you go, we'll talk about it as a challenge for humanity, is to think in terms of oneness and instead of separation. And this hierarchical system that we've created and we've, you know, consented to, basically, not maybe knowingly, but, you know, we've kind of agreed to it. It's built on that separation rather than that joining and that connection that we, you know, we're talking about here with this 6 points of separation. And, you know, we're any kind of historic stuff when it comes to my work, when we're talking about nations or countries, or, you know, who's the owner and this kind of stuff of assets and stuff, it's all still separation talk, where that oneness is what's going to get us out of this. And if we think in terms of oneness, then, you know, you got to get into these words like victim and perpetrator. And if we consider ourselves victims of this society or this situation that we have on our hands, we're going to perpetuate the whole separation thing. So, you know, our motto with First Republic Registrar Foundation is working with and never against, and adding to. So, you know, that's something that I constantly think about when I think about my business or even just my life, is just to how how we can join, how we can think about oneness, how we can, you know, the infinity symbol or the binary structure of 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, which shows an infinity symbol, all those kind of things. William, you're smiling because, you know, my head just starts rolling in these ideas of the torus or the toroidal field and things like that, which all show that oneness and that, you know, that joining rather than separation of, you know, two pyramids, one stacked up on top of each other in the Star of David, which is just, in my mind, you know, that's the hierarchical structure and that pyramidal stuff that just put everybody into a weird place, you know. Sorry, my battery's going low there. I might have lost it for a second.
Well, hopefully we don't lose you. You kind of inspired a couple of things for me too. I was smiling because I was thinking of the bow tie that you wore in one of your videos this week, which is also an infinity symbol, which we talked about just before we started the call, which was cool. I also was thinking about our conversation today, and in some ways I felt like it was like all over the place. It went in a lot of different directions, and yet at the same time, it was all connected. Like we talked about Anna von Reitz, and you know, Randy knows Anna von Reitz and communication, and Chris, you know, stumbled upon that, and then the different things that we talked about, there were different connections that people made, and I was starting to visualize this spider web, and then when I heard the word web, I kept thinking about some of the spiritual channels that I've been watching, and they talk about the web that, you know, that surrounds us, that allows us to create whatever it is that we create in our lives. And then also I was thinking about I noticed that really cool star behind Chris's right shoulder, and I thought that's pretty awesome. There might be a story behind that one too. So I kept thinking about all these different things. And one other thing I wanted to mention too, Randy was talking about where we focus our thoughts and our words, is also there's an interesting story that came to me about all that too. And you know, for the longest time, what I noticed in my life is I was always afraid of something, you know, negative happening, like I was going to be deep in debt, or I was going to run out of money, or all of these kinds of different scary things. And the funny thing is, because I thought of them and I kept focusing on them and worrying about them, hoping that they wouldn't happen, a lot of them did happen. And it's because my attention and my focus was on there, even though I was kind of trying to avoid. But by trying to avoid, I wasn't even embracing it and allowing it to pass through me. I would just keep fighting it, right? And so I ended up creating it. But the funny thing is, as I was creating it, I learned in that process that there's nothing to be afraid even in all of that. And so that is an amazing lesson in and of itself too. So lots of stuff I just got there through that little share you gave, Randy, but I don't know if that inspires anyone else, but lots of thoughts for me for sure.
That what you just said about the web and about how it's all connected, you know, because this whole conversation, there's been so many little synchronicities of things that seem so randomly not connected that are, like Randy brought up, or you both brought up, you know, things about water, which has been huge in my this whole weekend. There's been discussions surrounding water for me, so that's a big one. And then the name thing, Anya talked about the name of her pet, and I have a story about my little kitten and how he got his name, and it was kind of otherworldly in my experience. And then the thing about my name being Christian and the Christed light, and then tying that into the times that we're in right now. That I don't think that Christ is coming back in physical form, but I think that the Christ energy is what is coming into form right now, and bringing us all into this new earth. So maybe that's the prophecy that my mom was feeling when she named me that. Not that I would be that, or but just that this time that we're in. So and my journey into embracing that name is coming because of my awakening, into these new energies. So, and as far as my challenge goes, that would be my challenge, is I find myself, sinking down into the depths, and then the next minute rising up back above into, the higher frequencies. And it's just, I feel like I'm doing this all the time, and forgetting who I am, and then remembering, and forgetting, and then remembering. And I guess that's what's the word we use in the medical term? I'm a nurse. I can't think of it. A symptom. That's the word I was looking for. A symptom of these times of these changes that we're all going through. So, and yeah, my other challenge is that I work in a very Western medical environment, and I tend to forget who I am spiritually when I'm in that environment. Yet I'm so tied to it, because it's my source of income right now. And the spiritual side of me wants to separate myself completely from that paradigm, but yet I'm tied to it, on a dependency type thing. So at some point I've got to make a separation, and I have to figure out when the best time for that is, and maybe it's now. I don't know. We'll see.
If I may point out one thing, you said source of income.
Mm-hmm.
And if you switch that, what is really your source?
Exactly.
Maybe it's gonna be easier
Mm-hmm.
for you to switch. And another thing that I wanted to suggest, to look up your name, to hook up with someone who is good with numerology,
Mm-hmm.
and check your name with numerology. Maybe
Darn, that was getting so good.
I know.
Talk about a cliffhanger. Checking out numerology, checking your name on numerology. That sounds pretty cool.
Well, talking about synchronicities, like I had an experience for years where I was finding dimes like everywhere, and it was the source of my awakening. Was every time I would find a dime, I would get this sense of that it was, something on the other side was trying to get my attention. It was, wake up, pay attention. It was always this sense that I would get. And then someone asked me one time, did I know what a dime meant or 10 meant in numerology? And I didn't know anything about numerology. And I said, no, so I looked into it, and the 10 in numerology is like ones and zeros, and it had something to do with being guided, spirit guidance. And so it was really interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah. And it's 1 and 0, the duality, the basic layer of this realm. It's 1 and 0. So yeah. It's like you were crossing through the veil with these knives.
And recently I just met another woman that has been for years finding dimes also, and had the same experience. It kind of validated mine. So yeah.
I was finding feathers all the time. And even when my sister was born, she was born when I was 13. So I was like pretty grown up already. And she would always bring me a feather. Like I couldn't grasp why and for what. And at some point I even got mad. I got mad at her, like, stop bringing me those feathers, like. And she stopped. She, of course, subconsciously, because, but then years later, even though we're so apart as in terms of age, we have this connection, like very deep connection, like we understand each other on a very deep level, even if we fight, but we were like, we need to get, and this idea came to both of us at the same time, that we want to get a sister tattoo, which is the same tattoo on both of us. And we were looking for a right one for a year or something. And once I was visiting Poland, and we were doing nothing, and she's like, a feather. I'm like, of course, the feather, right? And we instantaneously we knew what we're talking about. So we got both of us. She has her on her left hand, and it's like mirroring each other. So, and it all started with finding feathers on the floor. And here it is.
Can I just say one more little thing about this dime thing? The woman who told me to look it up, what 10 meant in numerology, her husband was a numerologist, and we went in and he's the person that we asked. And I had just been telling her all about my dime story. And so I had left early in the morning before she woke up. I was on my drive home, and she called me up on my drive home to tell me that you're not going to believe this, but I went out we were sitting on the porch when I was telling her the story about the dimes. And she said, I went out this morning on the porch and there was a dime on the porch where we were sitting talking about it. And I said, see, I told you. I have like incredible stories about these dimes, and yeah, the places I would find them, and yeah.
So it's.
Oh, we were going to get Anya, but Randy was going to jump in, and Anya froze. So Randy, go ahead.
Well, if Anya's still there, here, look at this.
I'm switching the room.
Feather?
Randy has a
Oh my God, no, that's unreal. That's unreal.
by the way, do you guys, does Anya know that our symbol for the Tao Eternally group is now a
It's a
feather?
feather. Yeah.
No?
Yeah, Randy changed it. We had a dragon on there before, and we shifted, we changed it. And Randy found a picture of a feather, and that's what we're using.
Well, actually, that's another one of our authentic friends who is a feather girl, and that's Andrea. She was the one that showed me that picture, and she liked it better than the dragon. So,
What does a
Wow.
feather symbolize to you guys? What comes to mind when you think of the feather?
yeah,
Well, for me, to answer your question, Chris, what came to my mind specifically with Anya's story is because I recently saw an interview that Anya did with Danusha on Danusha's channel, and Anya shared her story, of her challenges with her health and near death or death experience. Actually, not near death. I guess it was a death experience. And I remember also the first time Anya was on one of our Tao calls that she didn't speak right until the very end. And then when we gave her a chance, she shared this beautiful story. And I noticed that every time I hear Anya talking, that she's a great storyteller. And I didn't share this with you yet, Anya, but I hope you don't mind. But that's
Thank you.
you're a fantastic storyteller. I am always completely engaged when I'm listening to you. And I know that you say you have some of the speech challenges, but it doesn't get in the way for me anyways. And I'm totally enthralled every time you're sharing something. So, it was a few years ago that I had heard that that sometimes the most interesting stories are the quietest people, is when they speak, they have something really important to say and you should listen, was sort of the message I got. And I noticed that, like over the years, I've been quiet and wanting to express myself at times and never having to. And so I was just really inspired by a lot of what Anya had to say. The feather was cool. It reminded me as well, the feather reminded me of the bird reminded me of the bird of the phoenix, and phoenix rising from the ashes. So that's what I was thinking of when I was thinking of the feather when you were sharing that as well. So that's my input into all of that too.
Thank you so much, William. That means really a lot to me, because it's a process. And right now I'm coming out of my shell, as Lee says, to public speaking, right? I don't have that, because for the longest time I had the problem to start a conversation with a stranger, to even ask for something in the store or whatever, like with a random person, because in the beginning the speech impairment was so severe that people would not understand me. So I would rather avoid. But then it got stuck with my mentality and my personality, and my mental had to catch up my physical, but it was like a circle. It was catching up and it was becoming better, right? So it was, and now when you say that it doesn't get in the way, it means a lot to me. And another thing that Danusha said, that it has to be this way because people pay more attention when it's this way.
Yep.
So it was kind of, yeah, makes sense. And I'm not even trying to find it anymore. It is what it is, right?
Yep.
And obviously English is not my first language, so the accent thing and all of that, it's like all those combination of things related to words, again, right, which we mentioned in the beginning. It's this cocktail of energies, the use of words, the tone of voice, all of that makes this unique cocktail of what I want to get out there. And I don't. I realize that when I start to talk, I can sit quiet for the whole conversation, for the whole meeting. Then I start to talk and I can talk, and I don't even know how this happens. Like it's not even me. Like who is speaking through me? You know.
That's awesome.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, the word subconscious came up there once with somebody. I think it was Anya, and then also the idea of repetition and the words once again, and the rising from the ash. That's what you said, William, and the feathers. So, kind of tying that up, I'm going to head off pretty quick here, but it's it brings me to the idea that, I don't know, it was a few years ago that I started doing this, but I really hunkered down in the last year, and I repeat that prayer that I say, that Aramaic Lord's Prayer, at least 8, 10, 12 times a day. You know, I used to say it more than that, and then also just finish off my videos in the same words each time. And I know what I'm doing by doing that is you know, resetting, if not setting, my subconscious. And I think repetition, whether it's, you know, daily meditation, daily exercise, some kind of daily practice that we have, and adding some words to that is really a big part of living out these lives. So I'm gonna say my last words with abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria, and let you guys take it away and go from there.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you so much, Randy.
Unless there's anything else we want to bring up or share, I think that would be a great way to wrap up the call.
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful call. Thank you for including me.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, guys. See ya.